Yes. Okay, now start now. Now team third that consists of Ravi, Suman and Abhishek. They are going to give some focus on English literature that starts from 18th century to 20th century. So,
First of all, good morning to all. And my team is Team C. As we know that our sir gave presentation about English literature that is divided into three parts, and that will be handled by three groups: that is Team A, Team B, and Team C. Now our Team C will handle English literature from 18th century to 20th century, and after that we will focus on some novel phrases, winner in English literature. So let's start. And here we go. That our Team C team members name. And here's our content. That is the Victorian literature. That is 1837 to 1901. And in Victorian literature, we will talk about American novel from Romanticism to realism, genius fiction, child literature, Victorian poets, American poets, and Victorian drama. And after that, we will talk about 20th century. That is modernism from 1901 to 1922. And after that, modernism is divided into two parts. That is 1923 to 1939. And after that, modernism is also postmodernism, that is 1940 to 2000. And then the novel, drama, poetry, literature from Commonwealth of Nation, American writer, genius fiction in 20th century. And lastly, we have literacy criticism in 20th century. So here first is our Victorian literature. So without wasting the time, that what is English literature, as our previous team introduced that. So let's start. Victorian literature is derived from that is in that time Victorian era was run. So that's why this literature is known for the Victorian literature. That is 1837 to 1901. And in this literature, very important role played by women. That is, women are playing very important role, because in this literature, Victorian era, and it was focused on two things, like your writing section and reading section also. And that means author and readers are also increased in that time by the women. And in that time, Reform Act 1913 was introduced in Victorian literature. That was introduced by Lord Grey, who was the PM of UK in that time. That is the time frame was 1764 to 1845. And in that time, industrialization or also increases, and industrialization increases, so social increases, and economical are very increased in that time. And after that, we have in that time we have great poets emerged like Charles Dickens, William Shakespeare, and the Brown sister, and there are many writers, but I have only three. So there we go. After that, here is Charles Dickens, late in 1830s. Charles Dickens was a poet who wrote two books that was very famous, like Oliver Twist in 1838 and Black House in 1852. After that, we have William Shakespeare Thackeray, who was born in India, who wrote a book which is very famous in all over the world, that is Vanity Fair in 1847. And we have lastly the Bronte sister. Bronte sister is obviously famous for their family background. That is the Bronte sister. First one is Emily, and second one is Carlot, and third one is Annie. First novel to success. That is, first novel of Bronte sister was success. That was written by Jenny Era in 1847 by Carlot Bronte. And the first feminist novel was written also by the Annie Bronte. And the last one is the Tangent of the Will Defend Hall. It was the name of the first feminist novel. And the second was Elizabeth Gaskell. Elizabeth Gaskell was the age of 1810 and 1810 to 1865. As we know that the English literature has many poets and authors, so that she was one of them. And after that, we have Antonia Trollope, that was the age of 1815 to 1882, and then John Ruskin in the King of Golden River. It was it was written. The King of Golden River was written by the John Ruskin in 1841, which was very famous. And Robert Louis Stevenson was the age of 1850 to 1894. Important in Scottish written writer and end of the 19th century. In the 19th century ending time, last phase, he was the most famous actor, author. H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells, who was the 1866 to 1964, was the writer of science fiction. That was in the first time that any writer was write in the science fiction, like the Time Machine, which was published in 1895, and the War of the Worlds, which was published in 1898. And then after American novels arrived, American novels gave birth to your Romanticism, gave birth to your New England transition system. That in that time published by the Waldo Emerson's essay Nature. Nature was the essay which was published by Ralph Waldo Emerson and become a major culture movement in that time. And there are romantic American novels. That is your writer name is Nathaniel Hawthorne. That is 1804 to 1864, and his book's name is The Scarlet Letter, which are published in 1850, and Henry James 1843 to 1916, and he was the late 19th and early 20th century's poet. And there is genius fiction. Genius fiction means that there is a short story, that means a comic book type, which are published in that time. It includes vampire stories, horror stories, comedy stories, and all that. It was very trending in that time. And now we have moved toward the Victorian poetry. Victorian poetry consists of many poets, but there is only two: Alfred Elizabeth and Bollings, which was 1816 to 61. And before Victorian poetry, here we have Chilean literature. In that time, Chilean literature are divided basically by their classes. Like they are mainly focus on the Chilean literature, because Chilean is our future. If we educate our children, that means they will develop our future. So that's why they will focus on the Chilean literature. It was developed as separate genres. Separate genres means what type of children want to read another types of book, then they will provide all type of facilities for that. And here the books like the Tales of the Peter Rabbit, which are published in 1902. And the American poetry is the 19th century. Yes, the formal literature. It was an American poet was explained by my teammate Suman. Yes.
Good morning to all of you. My topic is American English literature and American poetry. I talk of what is English literature. English literature is a form of human experience, and that made communication by a process their good knowledge of English literature. In language creativities and so many ideas are the English literature to perform of best quality of human and poets. And American poetry, poets 19th centuries era is a very good poets of American poetry is written by this era, and so many American poets regulations of American poets this family's deaconess of 1830s 1886, and American Civil War, 1861 से 1865. American Civil War is the second American Civil War. Formal in structure. Formal structure is very American. So many religious structures than before. Very form of poets, social and religious. Many forms of American poetry is there. American poets and Victorian drama. Victorian drama is Victorian drama is many more than two poets in recent time. The comes in new era. The poet Victorian drama is poetry to written by this era, and and era is a 20th century is 20th century is modernism's new form of American revelations, and can modern theory of American thoughts of poets, and Rudy read Kipling's. He is the best written by this is poet to the 20th centuries. Charles and Durant 1889 से 1882. Karl Marx is a reformations of this 20th centuries. Before is a generation to new performs of this era. It is called Karl Marx of 18th century, 20th centuries. Modernisms. How can is American revelations of modernism can feel this world war. World war is the biggest problem in this new thoughts of many ideas. The poets in human crisis and many problem of landlords of crisis. Very discriminations of this modernism era and Victorian schools. 1820 1822 से at 1941 is the best Indians he is the best writer. David Johnson's 1925 से 1974 he is a 20th century is a postmodernism. So last era this 20th century is poet is Dorothy Richardson. Very big human culture and any development of ideas. The society can be integrated is these ideas of seminal Beckett's poet martyrs of literature. Is the 20th century is postmodernisms are called as postmodernism literature. And so my team member is can call is coming.
Good morning, all of you. My topic: the novel drama poetry. The novel drama poetry in two significant late novelists are John Mulcival. He is born on 1945, and the second Colin Trewom. He is born on 1955, and among the most famous work created for radio are Douglas Thomas under Milkwood. He is born Milkwood. He is born 1955. And second, literature from Commonwealth of National. She is also post-colonial Australia, Kenya, Caribbean, Indian, New Zealand, Pakistani, African, and migrant literature. From on from one significant number of major rights come from continue that hard over continues being states by the British. Second, American writers. Men, men authorized American literature, American poetry, and theater of the United States. From 1914 into the first century, American playwrights, poetry, and novelists have continued to be continues to be and proto generation fiction in the 20th century. Man article generation fiction. Many works published in the 20th century were example of generation fiction. This disgusted included the examples of generation fiction. Literature criticism in the 20th century. In literature criticism in the 20th century, many more literature Nobel prizes in English literature, and Tony Morrison is Nobelist Prize Literature in born on 1993. He also belong US. And the second one, Raju Kaplan, is born on 1907. He is born in British India. That's it.
So,
Thank you, my teammate.
so before concluding, here are some Nobel Prize winners in English literature. First is Rabindranath Tagore, who won the Nobel Prize in 1913 from India. Second is William Faulkner in 1949 US. Third one is T.S. Eliot, 1948 from UK, but was born in US. Fourth one is Eligius O'Neill from US in 1936, and fifth one is Schuyler Lewis, which are 1930 from US, and Perlis Buck 1938 again from US, and W.B. Yeats 1923 from Ireland, and George Bernard Shaw 1925 again from Ireland, and John Dunsworth 1932 from UK, and the last one is Rudyard Kipling 1907 from UK, but he was born in British India. And lastly, I would like to conclude that in beginning of this presentation, we learned lots of things like how to make this type of animation, because I would like to thank my team, Suman, Abhishek, who will help in to complete my presentation. Suman will all do this, and after this concluding means we are learned a lot of things, like we like in last night we also learned from that, and however we didn't perform well, but maybe in next time. And I would like to thank you so much.
Okay. Since your presentation contains lot of things like account of World War, Karl Marx, yes. So I would like to ask you questions. Give me some literatures which are very famous from the World War first.
What are first literature?
Okay, second question. How literatures helps in spreading the ideas of World War?
Because in that time, as you know, that the printing press were very expensive, and if one thing is start, it will continue in very long terms. In World War, there is also printing press help to increase in that time, because they will print lots of books, and in free time that time there is no cell phones, and in that time people will read newspapers, books, and all that. So this one.
Good, very good. Okay, band karo.